Men contribute to 50% of pregnancy health. Improving sperm quality can improve your pregnancy outcomes. It takes two to make a baby.
Yeah.
It's 50-50. Society even puts the burden of fertility, infertility, miscarriage, all of it on our shoulders.
You've probably heard fertility is mostly a woman's issue. But what if I told you men's sperm counts have dropped nearly 50% in the last few decades, and that both partners' health before conception can shape a child's future? My guest today, Ronit Menashe, co-founder of WeNatal, is on a mission to flip the fertility script. In this episode, she reveals the shocking truths about why fertility starts now, not later, and the simple, powerful steps couples can take together to boost their chances of a healthy pregnancy in Trimester Zero. We will discuss the biggest fertility boosters and blockers and how sometimes simplifying things is the most important thing we can do. If you are planning to have kids, are parents to children who want to have children, or are in the middle of a challenging or later life fertility journey right now, this conversation will be a hope-inducing game changer. Ronit, thank you for coming.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so excited to get into all of the things. But first, a little rapid fire.
Let's do it.
What is one shocking statistic about fertility that most people don't know?
1 in 5 couples are experiencing infertility.
Wow.
So that is very high. That's 20%.
And we will get into that. Yeah, that's crazy. Men, sperm, 50% of the equation, right?
50%.
And nobody's like, why is nobody talking about?
Well, I would say 5 years ago, no one was talking about it when we launched WeNatal. Now I feel like sperm is a hot topic and a lot more people are talking about it, which we love to see. And I have a lot to say about sperm, so we'll get into it.
We'll get into that. Extinction, like the lowering of population because of lowering fertility rates, and especially this decline in sperm count and potency. Can you just is that a real thing? Extinction of our...
I mean, it's definitely possible if you look at the numbers. Every couple in the US is having on average 1.7 kids. So if you think about it, 2 people are making less than 2 people. So the population is shrinking, and globally around the world, like in Korea, it's 0.8. So each couple is having less than 1 child on average. So it's definitely possible. And some researchers say that sperm can reach 0 by 2045, which is in 20 years. So this is definitely a topic that everybody should care about, regardless of whether or not they're trying to conceive.
Wild. That is a wild statistic, 2045. We're talking about climate change. We're not talking about the fact that sperm counts can go to 0.
Yep.
It's crazy. What's the one sentence you wish every couple knew before trying to conceive?
That investing in Trimester Zero, which is the 100 days before trying to conceive, is literally the biggest gift they can give their child.
I love that. Okay, so WeNatal, what is it, and what is the personal story of you and Vita that drove you to create this company and movement?
So when I was 41 years old, I thought I had the wellness thing covered. I left Nike and started working with Dr. Mark Hyman, and I was eating organic. I was doing all of the things. I detoxed my home from all of the, my personal care items. I wasn't using plastic anymore. I was taking, pretty good prenatals, or at least what I thought were great prenatals. And I thought I was prepped for my pregnancy. And when I went to my 12-week doctor appointment, my husband was kind of pacing in the room, and I was like, in a way, like a little arrogant, like, why are you so stressed out? Like, what is there to be stressed out about? And little did I know that a few minutes later, the room would go quiet and there was no heartbeat. And my doctor looked at me, patted me on the back, and just said, "It happens a lot over 40. That's it." That's all she said. And when I asked, what can I do to optimize for a healthy pregnancy, she said, there's nothing you could do. And that didn't sit well with me, and it didn't make sense I was working in functional medicine, and I knew that oftentimes in functional medicine, there actually are answers and there actually are a lot of things that you could do. So I didn't listen to my doctor, and I dove into the research and called every single one of my friends who at that point were doctors, nutritionists, fertility doctors, naturopaths. And I myself dove into PubMed, and I found something that shocked me that nobody was talking about. And it was that men, I'm stating the obvious here, but this shocked me. Men contribute to 50% of pregnancy health, and that actually improving sperm quality can improve your pregnancy outcomes. And gosh, this was 5 years ago. And back then, this was a novel idea. And even though it makes sense, right? It takes two to make a baby.
Yeah.
It's 50-50. We as women, and I would say society even, puts the blame or the burden of fertility, infertility, miscarriage, all of it on our shoulders. And so I basically decided to put together a DIY stack of prenatals for men for my husband, which ended up becoming our men's formula. And my husband and I both committed to 3 months of Trimester Zero, which basically meant eating clean, in my husband's case, reducing any toxic behavior, if you guys know what that means, taking targeted prenatals that support sperm quality, not prenatals. Back then, I pieced it together from multis. So it was like CoQ10, NAC, all kinds of nutrients. And then 3 months later, I had friends over for dinner, and my period was a day late. And I really didn't think that I could be pregnant because, again, the narrative was you're too old, after 41, or even their narrative is after like 35.
30s, yeah.
Your advanced maternal age or geriatric. So I took the pregnancy test. I looked at it right away. It wasn't positive, so I threw it in the trash. The next morning, while my husband was cleaning out the trash, he runs into the room and he says, "It's positive."
No.
And
chills.
9 months later, actually 6 months later, when I was 42, I gave birth to Emma, who is now 4 years old. And so, we didn't stop there because my best friend, Vida, who you met, had a loss around the same time as me. And we couldn't stop there. We knew better. We had access to this information. We were able to, both of us, conceive after loss and have healthy babies naturally, not using IVF, no needles. And we thought, we have to do something about this. And now, 3.5 years after launching WeNatal, I wake up every day to DMs, emails, people that reach out, stop me on the street, show me their WeNatal babies, say, I was told I had unexplained infertility, or I was told IVF was my only option. Here are pictures of my ultrasound. My husband's sperm counts are up. And so when I think back to that loss that I had, was it devastating? Of course. But am I so grateful for that soul that came into my life for that very short time? Yes, because I found my purpose through that experience. And we've been able to help tens of thousands of families. And I'm so excited to see how many more we can help.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I have we could talk for hours on this topic because just the fact that male sperm is 50% and you get the sperm tested and it's part of the conversation if you're going through IVF or IUI or anything like that, or if you're having fertility issues. I think at one point it's known you got to test the sperm of the partner. But I think because we carry the child, it's not just the egg's health, it's the uterus. There's so many more complex factors. So the burden is on us, which is not fair. And
yeah,
Why do you think so many people, like, why these dismal? Is it all environmental? Is it stress? Like, what is your kind of hypothesis of why fertility is at an all-time low?
It's so interesting to think about that question because, I mean, when I look at fertility, it seems to me like fertility is just one issue of all of the issues that we're experiencing as a society. We're looking at chronic disease increasing, mental health issues, hormonal issues. And to me, fertility is just one symptom of all of the things that we're seeing. And when you think about what has changed in the last 50 years, because really things have started to change in fertility in 50 years, and we can go into a little bit more of that. It's like 50 years ago, we weren't living these crazy, stressful lives. We were eating, I would say, clean foods. We were moving more. We were spending time outdoors. And so human beings have been made to reproduce. And what's happening is that our system is just having a hard time keeping up with everything that's going on in our environments today. And so all of that to say is that's great news, because what you could do is, if we modify our environment and our diet and our lifestyle, you can, kind of optimize your fertility. And so when we talk about the fertility crisis and what we've been seeing in the last 50 years, it could be doom and gloom. Like, if you think about, sperm counts have been declining 1% per year in the last 50 years. And actually in the last 20 years or so, they've been declining at a rate of 2.6 per year. And that, if you think about the stats, and Dr. Shauna Swan looks at plastics in our environment and correlates it with the decline in sperm counts, that could be very stressful when you think about, in 2045, there will be no sperm left. Or, some people are saying that in a few years, IVF or ART will be the only way that we can conceive. And of course, ART is a $20 billion business. So right now, that is the first resort. But our goal with WeNatal is to support anybody who's trying to conceive, and for IVF to be that last resort, not the first resort. And so
ART is
assisted reproductive technology, whether it's IVF or IUI. And of course, there will be those who need it. But by supporting your system, by supporting your environment, you can really change the game of, and the trajectory of your growing family.
We'll get off sperm in a second. But what are some of the things that you and your husband did, or what can men do to reverse those statistics and boost their sperm count and motility and all of that?
Yeah. So I always say that sperm is like the superhero of fertility. And it's something that we don't really think about that much, because sperm is regenerating every second of the day. Men are regenerating 1,500 sperm every single second. Ooh. And so what that means, they are so lucky, because we're not regenerating eggs, but they are. And so what that means is, if a man takes 3 months to do a few things, and we could talk about what that is, they can really completely transform their sperm and have a completely new batch of sperm that's very different. So even if somebody had done a sperm analysis and they have like very bad results or whatever it may be, in 3 months, your sperm is going to be a completely new batch of sperm. So the sperm that I conceived with Emma was essentially made 3 months before we conceived. So that's how people need to think about it. And that's why Trimester Zero and investing in that 3-month time frame is critical. But what they could do. So sperm is very sensitive to oxidative stress. And what oxidative stress is kind of like when you cut an apple and it's kind of exposed to oxygen and it gets, brown. That's what oxidative stress is. But what you do with that apple is if you put lemon on top of it, it's not going to turn brown. So if you put in antioxidants like CoQ10, vitamin C, NAC, all of those things can reverse or slow down the effect of oxidative stress. So that's one thing. Another thing is hormone replacement therapy. A lot of men don't know that if they take hormone replacement therapy like testosterone, their sperm counts will go to zero, essentially. So if anybody, and we've had people in our community that have been very vocal about it, like Colton Underwood, who was an athlete and was on TRT, had essentially sperm counts of zero. And this is a man that's like a good-looking, strong, buff man. And so that's something to know. And then it's like movement. And, a new study came out in Stanford actually last week. Men who spend more time outdoors had higher testosterone. And when we look at the decline in sperm, we also see that in dogs, we're seeing the same decline. And so we have to think about our home environment, because if we're seeing it in dogs, it's happening in our home environment. So the foods that we're eating, movement, the toxins in our environment, and everything that we talk about in order to support women's fertility, men's fertility, it will impact men's fertility. And really, like, fertility is health. So anything that you're doing to improve your health will improve your fertility, and vice versa. If you're focusing on your fertility, you will also feel more mental clarity, more focus, more energy. Everything is intertwined.
And for Colton and others, if they've been on HRT and taken testosterone for years, can you get off of it and reverse and build back up sperm?
100%.
Okay.
But it takes about a year to do that.
Okay.
And then the other thing that's unique to men is that heat and testicles don't go well.
Like sauna.
So if you're into the sauna or the hot tub, you just have to be mindful that
None of that
heat,
in Trimester Zero.
Exactly.
Got it. I love this idea of Trimester Zero. I also love that when we go back 50 years, things were different. And obviously our food was different. Our lifestyle was different. I know I did fertility acupuncture. I think you and your partner did. So I do think that simplifying and going back to these ancient technologies of like being in nature and sleeping and aligning your circadian rhythms and doing things like acupuncture and herbs or whatever. So talk a little bit about like the old ways of doing things.
The old ways, I mean, back in the day, we weren't like super stressed. We weren't on screens all day long. I mean, there's just like so much to say about the olden days. But if we really look at, what is causing this infertility epidemic, we can look at, let's say, the first category, toxins in our environment. And so I always say that our kitchen and our bathroom are probably the most toxic places in our household. So if we can detox those, and it doesn't have to happen overnight, it could be, okay, slowly switch out your plastic Tupperware to glass, and slowly switch out your Teflon pans, if anybody's still using Teflon, to like a cleaner nonstick or stainless steel. Don't use plastic cutting boards. In your bathroom, in your skincare routine, it's so easy nowadays to get clean beauty and clean skincare. I think back to like 10 years ago when I was pregnant with Eden. To get clean beauty, you had to it was like granola, and it wasn't like cute, and it wasn't, you had to get it like on random websites or random health food stores. Now, even Sephora has great clean beauty sections. So it's being mindful about what you're putting on your body. And then I would say the second category is, I would say, food and movement. Americans are eating 70% of their diet from ultra-processed foods. And most Americans are overfed and undernourished. And we know that there's an association with obesity and being overweight and fertility. So that's one big issue. And because we know that PCOS is the number one cause of infertility and oftentimes is associated with insulin resistance and all of that. And actually, we are seeing now the idea of these Ozempic babies and a lot of women that are actually regulating their blood sugar using Ozempic being able to get pregnant like this. And so a lot of fertility doctors are actually talking about that as one modality to help. And I 100% am pro that because that is so much easier than going down the route of IVF, and of course, having healthy blood sugar is just so much better for like the outcomes of the baby and all of that. So I would say diet. There's research that shows that the Mediterranean diet and focusing on high protein, good fats, colorful fruits and veggies supports male and female fertility. And then, of course, movement. We're spending 92% of our time indoors sitting. And so just being more mindful. I'm not saying everybody who's trying to conceive needs to like sign up to a CrossFit gym or join a marathon, but it's really just being mindful of movement. I mean, research shows that men who walk 4,000 steps a day have way higher testosterone than men who don't. So just focusing on that as a couple. And yeah, I would say from a high level that, and then of course we talked about stress and sleep. Mm-hmm. And I heard a little bit about the app that you're developing, and I feel like there's no one solution for all. Everybody has a different way that they can regulate their nervous system. Like for some people, they could sit down quietly and meditate. I'm not that person, and everybody needs to just find their way because the stress is not going away. We are going to continue to live these busy lives. So finding a way to regulate your nervous system. And then also from my perspective, is it really investing in your sleep and investing in your sleep hygiene? So important. And so from a high level, the way I think about what to do in Trimester Zero is adopting fertility boosters and removing those fertility disruptors. And that's really it.
Totally. Makes so much sense. I feel like I did that. Also being a geriatric pregnancy person. At 39, I spent 6 months. I spent, Trimester 0 and -1 prepping, like with just acupuncture and just trying to optimize. And luckily it worked out. But the GLP-1 thing is really interesting. I don't know what your feelings are on it because a lot of people, there are some pretty negative side effects if you abuse them. Mm-hmm. So like microdosing may be a better option. I feel like that's interesting that might be a solution for infertility. But are there any concerns around the side effects or the non-sustainability of using that? Because your body adapts over time to,
I think more research needs to be done on it. Also, the impacts on the baby. So,
Correct.
like, you don't want to get
getting
pregnant while you're on a GLP-1. And right now, the fertility doctors out there are saying that you need to be off of it for at least 2 months before trying to conceive. So, to me, of course, like if somebody has issues with their like blood sugar, they need to work with a doctor. This isn't like something that I'm like, don't get it off some like random website. You need to work with a doctor and really
overseen,
yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't know if there was any discussion further or getting pregnant on them. I was like, oh gosh, I didn't like how does that affect
and
me?
I will say, like, I was talking to an OBGYN from LA the other day, and he was saying like he has been having a lot of his patients like get these like kind of natural surprise pregnancies on them. And so it's just something to consider and something to be aware of.
Yeah. I mean, too, if it's like you need a jump start to trip the system, and also simultaneously you're doing Trimester Zero stuff to change your lifestyle so that that is sustainable. It's a healthier way of being.
Yeah.
Then you get pregnant, then you go into your pregnancy, but you have these new lifestyle habits. I mean, that's the
And
ideal.
new ways of eating,
Yeah.
and you're prioritizing protein, and you're lifting weights. And, I think like even in the wellness community, the narrative has changed around GLP-1s. When it came out, I don't know, it's been around for a very long time, but when they
Right.
started to become popular, I would say like 2 years ago, a lot of people in the wellness industry were like completely against it. And now they're seeing that the benefits of weight loss and blood sugar regulation outweigh the risks and the side effects.
Right. Very interesting conversation. So that's for me, I love for chronic conditions, like using medication as potentially a bridge or something to get you out of some sort of acute situation, but then and give yourself the capacity and time and ability and energy to change the lifestyle, which is the sustainable healing, right?
Exactly.
But that's my philosophy. I don't need to push it on to anybody else, but it's an important conversation.
No, agreed. And people need to feel those like wins. And sometimes if people are kind of like just in this like rut, they have just such a hard time to even like execute on the trimester zero things that we're talking about.
Right.
Like it could be impossible for somebody who's been on a standard American diet their whole life. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Energy, weight, brain fog, like all these things inhibit you from making great decisions. So
Exactly.
So emotionally, I know the loss of a pregnancy is there's so much fear for women on a fertility journey, whether they've been, like forced to do IVF or told they're never able to have a kid. What have you learned emotionally, or like how do you, having that experience of a loss of a pregnancy and that heartbreak, how have you been able to like move through, or how were you able to move through the fear of that in your next pregnancy? And do you speak to people, or are you hearing conversation around like the letting go? Because I know a lot of people, they try for so many years and they do all the hormones, and it's just like a really kind of nightmarish process for them, and then they give up, and the minute they give up and like adopt or go down another path, that's when they get pregnant.
Yeah.
So talk to me about some things that you've learned.
Yeah, I would say like even if somebody hasn't had issues with their pregnancy, it's always stressful because of just the encounters at the doctor's offices, the short, doctors don't have, the time and space to really like sit down with you and explain what's going on. Like the ultrasounds, every little thing is so stressful. I mean, I feel like at least for me it was, even with my first pregnancy when I had like no issues whatsoever. So I think when Vida and I were creating WeNatal, we thought, okay, we want to create the best possible product for women and men to be able to support them physically, to be able to bridge those nutrient gaps that they're not able to get from their diet. But we also knew that there was a whole mind body connection that we wanted to address, because yes, it's physical, but it's also mental. And so with that, we created a manifestation journal that has 3 chapters in it. One is about setting intentions with your partner. And then we have like kind of the main part of the journal is a gratitude prompt that you use every single day for 3 minutes. And it's finding gratitude for yourself, for your partner, for your future child. And, I think like when we were creating it back then, maybe like a gratitude journal seemed a little bit more like fringe, but I would say like now the research is catching up with gratitude and how gratitude can actually impact your physiology. And so that's just one tool. And, over the holidays, last Christmas, we send affirmation cards to all of our customers with daily affirmations. And so it's always a conversation, and not everybody likes to journal, and not everybody likes to pull cards. And I think everybody just needs to find what works for them. But that's just kind of, what we did. And we always talk about this with our community. And of course, like, your app sounds like an amazing way to support. And I would love for when it comes out to share it with our community and talk about like the different modalities that you have in there.
Thank you. Yeah, we feel like it could totally be a support for someone on a journey that's stressful, and it gives them the tools to meet them where they're at, and like give them the tools to calm their system and really get back into that state of gratitude and conscious manifestation of what they want, which is a child. But so often our brains go to the threat and the fear,
Yeah. And I think also, like, we always talk about, like, listen, when you know that you did everything possible, you did the work, you're taking the nutrients, your partner is, you're doing all the things, you're going to acupuncture, then at some point you just have to like let go. And you talk about this all the time too. If you're so focused on like your goal and like the timeline, like God has its own timeline, and you just have to trust the universe that when it happens, it happens. And I think, maybe for me and for you, it's easier to say because we've been through it, and we have I have my rainbow baby, you have your daughter. And so we know that when it happens in the right timeline that's perfect for you. But again, when I was having my miscarriage back then, I could have never imagined the life that I have now. But I would say my hard work and God revealed a greater plan for me.
Yeah. There's so much stigma around miscarriages. I'd love for you to, speak about that. But first, like, I feel that it's pretty common, and maybe more statistics or studies on this, for a woman to have a healthy pregnancy, and then between the next one that comes to fruition, there's sometimes a miscarriage that's just a cleansing of the system or a reboot of the system. Like, I feel like that's a common time, like between the first and second pregnancy. Do you know what I'm saying? Or do you see like patterns or things that people can prepare for?
There's something interesting. So I had my first one, I was 38 and had no issues. And then again, when I was 41, I had my miscarriage. And then I gave birth to Emma when I was 42. And there's an incredible author. Her name is Rebecca Fett. She has a book called It Starts with the Egg. And that book really changed my life because she talks about all of the nutrients that you can use to improve your egg quality. And a lot of what we developed with WeNatal is based on her recommendations. And of course, like Dr. Hyman and our team. But in that book, she had one chapter on men's health. And really, that's kind of what created the light bulb aha moment for me. But one interesting piece in that book, in the chapter of men's health, is that she talks about how when your eggs are young, they have the ability to correct issues in the sperm. But when your eggs are older, they can't overcompensate for issues in the sperm anymore, which is why a lot of women have secondary infertility, or they have losses their second pregnancy. And so all of that to say is that it's super important to invest in sperm quality, improving sperm quality, and especially as we age, because for women, we can improve our egg quality, but we're not constantly regenerating our egg quality. And so that's like one thing that we talk about all the time, is like this myth that as you age, your eggs age with you. They don't. Your mitochondria actually ages with you. And so your mitochondria is the battery of the cell, or like the battery that your eggs have. And when you are in this time of trying to conceive, it's important to improve your mitochondria, and then you can improve your egg quality. But in the same token, the same goes with sperm. And a lot of people think that men, because they can reproduce at any age, like if you're 80 years old and you're a man, you can have children. Al Pacino did it. Mick Jagger did it. And so we have this perception that men don't age, but actually their sperm quality does age. And it's very important for men after the age of 35 to improve their sperm quality, especially if the egg is older, because it can't overcompensate for that sperm quality anymore.
So hormones in adolescence, fertility, birth control. I think a lot of people are put up birth control at a young age without knowing kind of the long-term effects and how that can affect fertility down the line. So I know you're into conversation about fertility earlier on, like now. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. I feel like the conversation around fertility should be happening way before you're trying to conceive. And in regards to birth control, it's an important topic to talk about because essentially being on birth control can mask issues that you have with your cycle or your hormones. And so a lot of women might not know that they have, a longer cycle or shorter cycle, or just like various issues like PCOS or, whatever it may be. So it's just important to know that birth control definitely has a use, and it's definitely like a very important part of modern medicine, but also just know that you should be getting off of birth control probably early than you want to, just to get to know your cycle and to know like when am I ovulating? Is my cycle consistent? Is it not consistent? If it's not, what's going on? I need to like get to the root of things. So it's a very important conversation. And then as far as nutrient depletion, being on birth control can deplete you from B vitamins. So just making sure that you're repleting your system with nutrients that could be depleted because of birth control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I'm 46 and may or may not want to conceive another child. I've heard these stories like women used to get pregnant at like 50, 55, like back in the day. I'm talking hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. It was common for people in their older ages to still get pregnant. So do you know about those stories, and or what would you advise me to stay as healthy as possible for fertility wise?
Well, I would say you're already living a clean, healthy lifestyle. So I wouldn't put it past you having kids later in life. And we hear it all the time from our community of women that, are over 40 and having kids naturally. And in fact, my perspective is that it's probably easier to get pregnant naturally after the age of 40 versus defaulting to using something like IVF because, the conversation isn't about when later in life you have less eggs. But if you work on improving your egg quality, then the sky's the limit to what you could do. And so we always talk about this 100-day window for women and that time when your egg is maturing to improve the mitochondria and in turn improve the egg quality. And we actually made a product that does exactly that. It's called Egg Quality Plus, and it has 5 nutrients that are very targeted for egg quality. So keep working on your egg quality. Mm-hmm. And regardless of if you want to have another one or not, you're just improving your mitochondria, which we all need as we age anyways. And I just want to add to your listeners, there's not just one way to have a baby. And I think like if people are open to, using modern medicine or adopting or whatever it may be, we have somebody who works at WeNatal, Penny, our head of customer service, who's amazing. And she had her son at the age of 57.
What?
She used an egg donor, but she carried her baby to term. He's super healthy. She's super healthy. So I think, a big PSA that we have at WeNatal is that your chronological age is just a number, and there's so much that you could do to improve your biological age, which is essentially the age of your cells. Like you don't look 46 to me, I'm also 46, by the way. And, when I was 40, I was checking my biological age and it was like in my early 30s. And, I don't know if you've been seeing this, like a lot of people are posting their biological age through Function Health. And it's like, okay, well, if you're doing all the things and you're nourishing your cells and you're nourishing yourself on the inside, then you're probably younger than you actually are.
I feel it. Immature wise too. I feel like it's 24. No. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm definitely ordering Egg Quality Plus like right after this interview. Keep them right and tight. So I want to shift gears a little bit as a founder of a company, and we're doing so much now. Like we're raising money and launching this app, and it's a constant process being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
With small kids. So can you share? I've talked to so many people, most people on my podcast, like turned their, air quotes, pain into purpose. And you're really mission driven and you really are solving for a need that you experienced. Talk to me a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey, like what the biggest challenge was, did you hit any fundraising like hiccups? What got you and Vita through? I'd love to just get some entrepreneurial sisterhood inspiration right now.
Yeah. First of all, it's been so fun. And finding something that is your mission and that you live and breathe and doesn't feel like work is incredible. And so how's it been? Well, we're bootstrapped, so we didn't raise money. Initially, before launching, we raised a small friends and family round from various like strategic investors. And we've been, it's been interesting because in our space, there are a lot of prenatal supplement brands. And of course, like no one's like WeNatal. We wouldn't have created WeNatal if there was anything like this out there. And every single one of them is VC funded. And so there's a little bit of like that challenge of like, my personality being so like driven and like competitive. And, if you take a peek at like what the competition is doing, they have billboards, they're everywhere that, and here we are growing our community slowly. Organically, but profitably. And I would say 3 years in, we just now started investing in like paid ads. We haven't done any paid ads up until this point. And so to me, it's very rewarding to think about like how much we've done on such a small budget. And it's a testament to the product that we created and the integrity of it. And honestly, our relationships and our network. I always say to people that like, relationships are way more valuable than any amount of money that you can have. And starting this company after the age of 40, both Vita and I have had relationships in the wellness space through Nike, and so having all of these incredible influencers support our brand just because they believe in us and they believe in our product, and it wasn't a transactional exchange, really allowed us to create a brand, that was, I would say, grew at a pace, without like having to spend money on like the marketing really, And then the other thing that was so interesting when we launched is we wanted to create a product that's beautiful, because when we were taking our prenatals and all the extra stuff that we had to take, we were hiding it in our cabinet counters. And we wanted to create something that was beautiful, that you can leave on your kitchen counter, on your bathroom, because we wanted it to be part of people's lives. We wanted women and men to feel like, okay, this is part of my lifestyle and it's something that I don't have to hide. And it's something that I'll remember to take every day because, at the end of the day, the habit that you do every day is what actually makes the biggest impact. And so we created beautiful packaging, and also we both came from Nike. And so we knew we wanted our customers to have a beautiful brand experience. But we didn't realize that when we were creating this beautiful packaging, so many people who would buy WeNatal would unbox it and share about it on social media. It wasn't our intention. And so I think when you create a product that comes from a true place of like purity and true place of like doing good for the consumer, miracles happen. Like you don't have to spend so much money in like launching it.
Yeah, I totally am aligned. It's like I'm in this very mystical flow state right now because our intentions are so pure. Our team is incredible. They're all very mission driven. Yeah, money is great and you can do bigger things with more abundance, but it's just this organic drive. And as you're talking about your beautiful branding and your intention, it's all frequency and people feel that. It's an energy in the product. Your intention is pure. You really want to help people and you're bringing life into this world. Like it's really cool. Same thing with our app and platform and the media that we're creating. So that's really refreshing to hear because that's truly where we're at. We're in this like kind of aligned unfolding that's very organic and very much in flow. And I'm just like, can it really? And I'm really setting intention. Like I want ease and grace. Like I am in co-creation with the divine. Like show me how good it can get. Show me how easy. Show me with clarity what the next step is, who my people are. And it's just unfolding that way. It's really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So any last thoughts to share or where can people find you? I'm so excited I'm already taking your products, but now I need the Egg Quality
I love
Plus.
it. I love it. We'll send you the Egg Quality Plus. It's amazing. And we have, I think we sent you our magnesium, which is incredible.
Yes.
And
Digest and rest.
Rest and digest.
Okay.
And people say, actually, we have a blog post coming out tomorrow with Vita's Aura Ring scores of like with taking our magnesium and without taking our magnesium. And it's incredible. She swears by it. I always take like magnesium and stuff, so I can't tell the difference with me. But for your community, we have a free magnesium for anybody who orders with your link, WeNatal.com/healwithkelly. So anybody who subscribes to WeNatal will get a free magnesium product. And then, of course, they can find us on WeNatal. On social, we're at @we_natal. And I just want to say, like, I love responding to DMs, questions. I really, really care about the families and the women behind us. And I honestly, like, don't want anybody to go through what we went through. So I will always send you a voice note if you DM us and ask us a question, or email us at care@wenatal.com. Those get forwarded to me if it's a question for me. So happy to support your entire community. And I'm just so grateful for what we're able to do. And like you said, like the gift of being able to support families create life is pretty incredible, and I'm just so grateful for it.
What a blessing. Well, thank you for your work and your light and your heart. I can tell that's such a beautiful personal touch that you put on your business. So thanks for coming.
Thank you. It was such an honor, and you're incredible too.
You are.